The good thing is that we already started talking about push notifications on the previous one, so I think the discussion is already ongoing. So the objective here is to be interactive, so if you have questions or just raise your hand and we can interrupt and go from there. We will present a bit what was already done on the push notification side and what are the open topics that we would like to discuss and get feedback. Just to have a feeling here, do we have third-party app developers here? Okay. OEMs? So mostly OEMs, I guess. Okay, that's good. It's good to have both perspectives. Okay, push notifications, we already talked a bit what is the need. So the idea here is that we deliver a message to an app that is not running. And we cannot have all the apps running in background. So this is transparent on a Google mobile phone with Google services. It's not on a USB. From the different alternatives that we analyzed previously, the unified push seemed to be the most promising one because it provides a specification. It doesn't provide a solution. We already have open source solutions, which will help speed up the proof of concepts and the delivery, but we're not focusing on the solution, we're focusing on the API to give flexibility to everybody. As mentioned previously, the licensing is compatible with the AOSP and it's compatible with Web Push, so the apps that are already supporting Web Push will have, let's say, a smoother transition to support unified push. That was the main reasoning. So to get a bit more into the details, so what we have in the unified push or on a push notification use case, we have 4 parties involved. We have on the back end the third-party app application server and the push server, so the server that will send the notification to the car. And on the client side, so on the car, on the IVI, we will have the third-party app which is not running, and we will have a privileged system app which we call the distributor app that is responsible to be always running and getting the messages from the push server to deliver to an app that is currently not running. The web push protocol, so it only specifies the interfaces, not the solutions, as mentioned previously. So if we look at the different parties, so we have this responsibility of Covesa, which is to provide the specification, and we don't want to reinvent the wheel. That's why we check for what's there on the available, and we went for unified push. One of the objectives now in this phase is also to get feedback from the third-party apps to see if this unified push covers all the use cases that we want to support, if it's enough or not. Do we need to expand unified push, or what we have today it's enough? So Covesa should focus on the API, on the specification, and as Melina mentioned previously, also providing a test suite to make sure that whoever is implementing this is compatible, because we'll most likely will have different solutions depending on the OEMs. And also provide tools and proof of concept, so reference documentation for the app developers to know how can I adapt my app to support this unified push protocol. So this is let's say, the scope of Covesa. On the OEM side, they need to make sure that this works on their systems. The way they do it, we don't care too much. It could be their own solution. It could be a solution from Covesa. It could be a solution from the App Store providers, as long as the interfaces are met. But the distributor app has some specific privileges, so it needs to be factory installed, usually by the OEM. It's the OEM responsibility to select the distributed app. And usually a distributor app, it's linked to a specific push server. So these two parts come together usually, but it's up to the OEMs to select and make sure that it's integrated and working properly. Finally, on the third-party app side, and I think we have here a mistake on the slide, but the third-party apps need to make sure that their client app is able to communicate with the distributor app, but also that their application server is able to communicate with the push server. And the API on the server side, it's very similar to the web push. So that's what we think would be a benefit, but of course we need the developers' feedback on this topic. So a bit more details on the POC that was done by BMW. So they use existing solutions, open source, for the distributor app and for the server. And there is NTFY, but there are other solutions out there. It was just more to prove that it works. And they build a simple app that is able, on one hand, to send the message to the push server, and then the client app is able to receive it on the IVI. So the feedback that we got, it was quite simple. Less than 1 hour. I'm not sure if we have MyVIO here on the room. No? Okay. It would be also good to get their feedback on how easy was it. But the feedback that we're getting is that it's easy to evaluate, at least. It might be a bit more tricky than when we go into production, but so getting a bit into the details. So how does it work? So there are a set of, for the Android app, a set of broadcast receivers that need to be supported both by the distributor and the third-party app. And what happens is that the third-party app registers with the distributor app through a standard interface, the register. And what happens is that the distributor app will communicate with the push server backend and will provide an endpoint. This endpoint is the way that is used to deliver a message to the app. So I think we had a question previously, how does the application server is able to communicate with different distribution servers? Is through this endpoint. So this is a dynamic endpoint. So for instance, if an app is running on OEM A, it will get one URL, one endpoint, but if it's running on OEM B, it will be a different endpoint. The beauty of the solution here is that this is dynamic. So the client app on the car registers with the distributor app, it gets an endpoint, it communicates the endpoint to their application server, and then the application server knows how is it able to deliver a message to that specific client app on a specific car, on a specific device. I think, yeah, just from you, the question previously. Yeah. I was just explaining so this is the dynamic. So whenever you, the client app registers with the distributor app, and it gets an endpoint that it communicates to its own application server on the back end, and then the application server is able to deliver the apps to different OEMs using different endpoints. So this is the registration and the subscription part. Then we have a part which I'm not an expert here, but I believe it's specific from Unified Push. It's not part of the Web Push API specification, which is the application server can query a specific server to check if this is a Unified Push server or not, because the implementation could be slightly different if it's a Unified Push server or if it's a different kind of server. So this is specific from Unified Push. It's not a Web Push standardization. And then we have the part of delivering a message to the device. So the third-party application server sends to the push server. The push server sends to the distributor app that then uses the broadcast receiver from Android to deliver the message to the app that is not running currently. So it's important to notice that the part of the interface between the distributor and the push server, it's not part of the scope. So it's really up to the solution that is selected to decide how the distributor works with the push server. Our specification here, it's not needed. What we need is the interface between the application server and the push server that leverage the web push protocol. So it's a standard. Hopefully it will make life easier for everybody. And I think that's mostly it. So the message is delivered to the third-party app, and then we may have an acknowledgement of the reception that is then communicated to the backend. Any questions so far? Comments? No. Mm-hmm. And finally, we can also have the final flow here at the bottom, which is the end register. So there are some questions, and here is where it would be good to have some feedback also from the third-party apps. There are some differences between, for instance, this unified push and web push, namely the way that the registration and subscription is done. So on unified push only defines the register. On web push we have two steps: first the registration, then the subscription. It's not clear here how to handle these different use cases, specifically from the third-party apps perspective. Also, we, at least from the first analysis that we did, we didn't find any parameter to define let's say, a validity date for a subscription. So sometimes you may want to register or subscribe, or even send a message with a specific validity, because when you're sending a message to a client, the client may be offline, may not be receiving, and you may want to define a specific validity. I want to send this for, I don't know, 1 minute, 1 hour, 2 days, until the client is available. And we're not sure, at least at this stage, if this is the same approach as the web push, or if we're missing something here on the unified push. And the part that we mentioned previously, the endpoint get returns a unified push. This is specific from unified push. So it's not standard web push API. I think that's mostly it. Not sure if you have questions, comments, concerns.
Probably talking about next steps. I mean, as we already saw on BMW side, we were able to successfully do the POC. However, if there are OEMs who are willing to spend the 1 hour to also do the POC on their side to give us more confidence level moving forward that this is the right approach, that would be the one thing that would be appreciated. Also, more than happy to support from Faurecia side, GM side, BMW side with doing the POC. But usually, if you want to have a standardized solution, just having feedback from one OEM is not what we're opting for. I mean, on the other hand, the other target group are being the app developers. I know that some conversations have been started with communication app providers like Zoom and Webex, for example, getting their feedback. However, all of the OEMs are talking to different app providers and also the different store providers. I see that we now also have colleagues from Haman there. Also talk to the different app providers and getting the feedback then also from kind of the other side of the story from the developers. If that is the right way to move forward, that would be also good. So that would be kind of the call to action, that we can do that as next steps, that we can generate the confidence level from both sides, that we're moving in the right direction to then define how we will move forward there, and if that is the right approach or if we need to reassess. There might be even better ideas in the room now after you heard this, now after you have a little bit of time of thinking about it. That would be really good. Happy that you either share the feedback then with us as chairs or in one of the Monday meetings that we have, where we anyhow frequently ask for a status update. But that would be kind of the next concrete steps. If you're saying, hey, we want to be involved, we want to participate, we want to push forward, then that would be what would make sense to do.
Yeah, and there's some topics here more for brainstorming. I think it's important that we take this either here on the forum or offline. So what are the gaps that we see with respect to Firebait's cloud messaging? Do we see that something is missing in terms of configuration of the types of message, the retry mechanism, the error handling? If we see any potential pains for the integration for the third-party apps, this would be important to bring them up front so that we can tackle them as soon as possible. The integration and hosting strategy, I think this is more an OEM's decision. I think we have at least a way forward to handle it properly. So we give the freedom to the OEMs, but we want to provide some test suits to make sure that the solutions are compatible. But these are probably the main topics that we need to deep dive a bit further in the coming days.
Yeah. So I have this question. So when we are saying the push server, so I just want to know what is push server here. It's Firebase or something else, or depend upon the OEM. Second, there is a push notification type. So when receiver is getting the push notification, so there might be 1-2 possibility. He want to, when he click, he want to launch something, some application was not running in the background. So we are making them run. Second will be he want to give some reply. So there will be some pushback message to the server. Is that use case?
Yes. So we have the message and knowledge here. So there's two things. So one is delivering the message to the client app. The interface sends here. What the app does with that information, it's not part of our specification. The other thing, as you mentioned rightly, is that we need an acknowledgement. So especially if you want to have some retry logic on the server, you need to know if the message was delivered or not. This is also covered on the specification, the message acknowledgement.
So this is the acceptance, like that message has been received by the receiver.
Yes.
But if receiver also want to reply, for example, Zoom or something, some message came that
Yes.
application is not running and user got some notification having some message. So he can reply with some value.
So
Yeah.
again, I'll need to stress out this. There are two different things. One is notifications. One is push notifications. I believe what you're talking about is the notification. So when when the app here receives the push notification, so a message from, let's not call it notification. Let's call it messages.
Okay.
A message coming from the server. When the app receives the message from the server, it can do a number of things. One thing could be to show a notification that has an action, but that's behind the what we're specifying here. That's a logic from the app. We don't want to interfere that. There are already interfaces for that. Even on Android Automotive, there are guidelines to provide notifications to the user. We're not talking about that here. We're just talking about how do we deliver a message to an app that is not running currently.
Yeah. Well,
I think the name sometimes is confusing because it has notifications on the name, but it's completely different things.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Otherwise, that would be it from push notification perspective. I mean, as mentioned in the session earlier, besides push notifications, which is just being one of the work streams, if there makes sense that we add more work streams there, happy that we have a chat afterwards over a coffee to see if we need to extend it, how also different parties who now know about the initiative want to get involved. And besides that, we then would be set.
Yeah, if there's no more questions, we can adjourn this. But if you guys want to talk offline with us, we're going to be here, and we can talk to you guys. So thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
And of course, the slides will be published. I saw that quite some people already took photos, but if you want to review it afterwards in better quality, we will publish the slides.